Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanantari Jamuna Tira Vanantari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanantari Jamuna Tira Vanantari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Gaura Pimanandi, Daim Vishnupada Paramahamsa, Parivrajagacharya Stotra Satta Sri Simad, His Divine Grace, Shalabhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, His kind BBT, Founder Acharya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Pimanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurundaritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Sya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaevasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamashloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamhitam Uttama-shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swaschayanam Mahad. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Mukham karoti vasaram pangam langayate girim yatkripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yatkripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam class. We continue to read from Canto number 2, Chapter 2, entitled The Lord in the Heart. And today we are looking at text number 33. Yes, 23, 2-3. Yogeshwaranam Gatim Ahur Antar Bahis Tri Lokyaha Pavanantar Atmanam Na Karmabhis Tam Gatim Apnuvanti Vidya Tapo Yoga Samadhi Bhajam. Everything is there, huh? Vidya, Tapo, Yoga, Samadhi, Bhajam. Yogeshwaranam Gatim Ahurantar. Yogeshwaranam Gatim Ahurantar. Bahis Trilokya Pavanantar Atmanam. Nakarmabhistam Gatim Apnuvanti
Atmavanti.
Vidya tapo yoga samadhi bhajan.
Vidya tapo yoga samadhi bhajan.
Yogeshwaranam gatim ahurantar.
Yogeshwaranam gati ahuranta.
Bahistrilokya pavanantaratmanam.
Vahi trilokya pavanantaratmanam.
Nakarmabhistam gatim apnuvanti.
Nakarmavistam gatimatmanti.
Vidya tapo yoga samadhi bhajam. Yogeshwaranam gatim ahurantar. Bahistrilokya pavanantaratmanam. Nakamabhistam gatim apnuvanti. Vidya tapo yoga samadhi bhajam. Yogeshwaranam gatim ahur antar. Bahistrilokya pavanantaratmanam. Nakamabhistam gatim apnuvanti.
Vidya tapo yoga samadhi bhajam.
Vidya tapo yoga samadhi bhajam. Yoga Ishwaranam. Of the great saints and devotees. Gatim, destination. Ahuhu, it is said. Antaha, within. Bahihi, without. Trilokyaha, of the three planetary systems. Pavana antaha, within the air. Atmanam, of the subtle body. Na, never. Kalma bihi, by fruitive activities. Tam, that. Gatim, speed. Apnuvanti, achieve. Vidya, devotional service. Tapaha, austerities. Yoga, mystic power. Samadhi, knowledge. Bhajam, of those who entertain. Translation and purport. We have some competition this morning. Noise, all night noise. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The Transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. The fruitive workers or the gross materialists can never move in such an unrestricted manner. Kindly repeat after me. The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service,
of their devotional service,
austerities,
austerities,
mystic power,
mystic power,
and transcendental knowledge.
and transcendental knowledge.
Their movements are unrestricted
Their movements are unrestricted
within and beyond the material worlds.
within and beyond the material world.
The fruitive workers,
The fruitive work
or the gross materialists,
or the gross material
can never move
can never move
in such an unrestricted manner.
in such unrestricted manner.
Yes, Narada Muni, of course, comes to mind, and Prabhupada will mention him in the purport as well. Purport: the materialistic scientists' endeavor to reach other planets by mechanical vehicles is only a futile attempt. Futile attempt means it's a waste of time. One can, however, reach heavenly planets by virtuous activities, but one can never expect to go beyond Swarga or Janaloka by such mechanical or material activities, either gross or subtle. The transcendentalists, who have nothing to do with a gross material body, can move anywhere within or beyond the material worlds. Within the material worlds, they move in the planetary systems of the Mahar, Janas, Tapas, and Satyalokas. And beyond the material worlds, they can move in the Vaikunthas as unrestricted spacemen, transcendental spacemen. Narada Muni is one of the examples of such spacemen. And Durvasa Muni is one of such mystics. By the strength of devotional service, austerities, mystic powers, and transcendental knowledge, everyone can move like Narada Muni or Durvasa Muni. It is said that Durvasa Muni traveled throughout the entirety of material space and parts of spiritual space within 1 year only. The speed of the transcendentalists can never be attained by the gross or subtle materialists. Translation again: the transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. The fruitive workers or the gross materialists can never move in such an unrestricted manner. So this is very true, of course, but we can observe it and see it even amongst devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement. No one before joining ISKCON thought that they would travel as much as they are traveled. We see examples, so many examples of devotees. It's one of the features when one joins this International Society of Krishna Consciousness, just like Prabhupada set the example by traveling at a very advanced age, as we know, within the 11-year period that he preached Krishna consciousness outside of India. He traveled around the world something like 14 times. I don't know how many countries. I was mentioning how I was counting the number of number of countries I visited, you know, in this in the last so many years, and it's about 40 countries. Actually, 40 countries. Amazing, actually. And I know that I have god brothers and god sisters who have traveled maybe double that, if not more. You know, we never imagined. So this is a gross or material example, which is in line here with what is being explained. That for a spiritual cause and being above the material limited conception of life, the very first line in the text is making it very clear. The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. So it means that because of our practice of devotional service, because of various austerities, mystic powers and transcendental knowledge that we are cultivating, therefore what is actually unthinkable and what is also impossible for the materialists becomes actually possible for the devotees of the Lord. And of course, Prabhupada gives two particular examples of Narada Muni, who is our transcendental spaceman, who travels unrestrictedly both within the material world and the spiritual world. Prabhupada gives the example of Durvasa Muni also, who by dint of mystic powers traveled extensively. Here Prabhupada mentions within 1 year only, traveled the entire space within the material world and part of the spiritual space as well. So it means that actually when we take shelter, when we take full shelter of the spiritual energy of the Daivi Prakriti, then the limits that are there within the material sphere, a devotee can go beyond or cross beyond these material limitations. So the text has these very, the last line of the text, so many important words here. By vidya, Prabhupada, interestingly enough, he translates, normally vidya means knowledge. But Prabhupada here translates in the word for word vidya as devotional service. Real vidya, or the culmination of vidya, or the perfection of vidya. It's like Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita also, Raja Vidya, the king of knowledge. Raja Vidya, Raja Goyam, Pavitram, Idam Uttamam, Pratyakshavagamam Dharmyam, Susukam Kartam Avyayam. So the perfection of knowledge, or the topmost knowledge, is coming to that level of bhakti, or devotional service. So Prabhupada gives directly the full meaning of vidya. And interesting also, he translates bhajan, bhajam. Bhaja usually means bhaja hure mana, Here Prabhupada translates as one who entertain. One who entertain. So it means that actually entertainment brings satisfaction or happiness. One cannot entertain unless he is pure in consciousness or purified in consciousness. And one also cannot be entertained unless he is also, unless his consciousness is purified. So of course we know that the real real entertainment is on the transcendental level or the transcendental platform. Tapa, of course, Prabhupada translates as austerities. Yoga, he translates here as mystic power. And samadhi, he translates as, normally samadhi means trance. Here Prabhupada translates samadhi as knowledge, vidya as devotional service, and samadhi as knowledge. So samadhi, real samadhi, our acharyas explain, Prabhupada explains, is not simply some non-active kind of meditative position. One learns in Krishna consciousness to be in samadhi 24 hours a day. Samadhi means to be absorbed. Meditation is a kind of absorption, isn't it? We become absorbed in some thought. Generally we think of samadhi in this way. Oh, he's in samadhi, don't disturb him. But samadhi, actual samadhi, means to be fully absorbed in our eternal duties of Krishna consciousness, being absorbed in dharma, in sanatana dharma. So that means that we know how, especially in modern times, modern scientists are being engaged in so many material pursuits, and they're spending, huge amounts of money on space travel, etc., like that. But that's very, Prabhupada considers that as futile attempts. Spending so much, people spend their whole life in making different experiments or in laboratories, just dissecting animals and trying to, without giving any time actually for spiritual or transcendental pursuit. And we see here in the examples that are given, especially of Narada Muni, one's endeavor should be directed towards, that is what is being underlined here, one's endeavor should be directed towards spiritual pursuit. One's concern should be that of spiritual activities, or as Prabhupada mentions in the first verse, one should be less concerned with one's material body, but one's concern should be primarily with what is on the level of Sat. Sat means what is actually eternal. So that means that a devotee is less attached, should become less attached, should become less concerned with the ongoings of this material body. Because it is all temporary and it has nothing to do with the real us, the spiritual self. That doesn't mean we neglect the body. As a matter of fact, Prabhupada did emphasize the importance of keeping good health, but it should be done in such a way that we do not overly become preoccupied, and we understand that because we're here in the material body, health issues will always be there, but we are not overly absorbed or overly concerned, and we know that it is just like this first instruction that Krishna is giving in the Bhagavad Gita, this sukha and dukkha, isn't it? Material world is full of these dualities that we are facing every day, of material happiness and material distress. But a devotee who is endeavoring to, a devotee means someone who is endeavoring to remain on the higher level of consciousness, does not allow himself, or should not allow himself, to become overly disturbed by his material condition. Relatively short purport, but nice instruction being given here. The transcendentalists, who have nothing to do with the gross material body, can move anywhere within or beyond the material worlds. So we'll read the text again. And then we can, we have time to go to the next one also. The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, by the strength of austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. Just like we have examples of in Maharashtra, who is that great? The great mystic who actually connected with Pandharpur. Tukaram. Tukaram Maharaj. When we were visiting Maharashtra in the villages, they very much worship actually Tukaram, who was very devoted, and his whole life story is very exemplary. And the description is given that he was so absorbed, constantly absorbed in actually glorifying the Lord and chanting the glories of the Lord, describing the Lord in so many, he wrote so many songs, I think thousands of songs in glorification of the Lord. And it is said that he went back to the spiritual world in his self-same body, right? Krishna sent his Biman airplane to take him, and apparently to the vision or to the eyes, or at least his wife, or maybe others as well. His wife was always very disturbed by his being too much absorbed. there's a nice, I'm sure there are many anecdotes, but one time I think it was King Shivaji, right? Shivaji Maharaj he was very spiritually inclined, and he came to know about Tukaram. So one day he went with many of his assistants, and he wanted he wanted to actually, he had heard so many things about him, but he wanted to see by himself. So he went in disguise with many of his associates, and Tukaram Maharaj was not at home. He didn't spend that much time at home because he was always going out, chanting the glories of the Lord with his veena, right? Small veena, he had musical instrument. So Shivaji Maharaj and his different ministers and whatnot, they came to the residence of Tukaram Maharaj, and his wife was there, and he had one son and daughter. And what they did is they brought all kinds of gifts, and like especially like jewelry and clothes. So they were very poor, and they explained that actually we have some gifts for the family. This is the house of Tukaram ji, and they said yes, it's his house, and so they started putting these different gifts on the floor, and they told them, you can open, this is all for you. All for us? Yeah, they were. So the wife of Tukaram, she called the children, come, and we are getting all these nice presents today. So they started opening, and it was full of very nice, like silk cloth and all very wonderful, different colored cloth. They started putting on all this dress, little boy was putting on this hat and then putting on clothes. So that went on for some time, and then Tukaram Maharaj came back to the house. He was wondering what's going on, so many people are here. And then slowly he came, and then as he approached the house, then he saw all of these different gifts that were there, and of course, as soon as Tukaram's wife saw him, and the children also, they were all just before his arrival, putting on all kinds of different dress and smiling and very happy and joking. But as soon as he came, everything became quiet, And they were wondering, what's he going to say? What's he going to do? So he walked in the house where they were, and all the different clothes were there. So many things had been brought, and then he was very quiet. He looked at the whole scene, and he started looking at this cloth, all new cloth. They were poor, they didn't have any kind of... So then he went to his wife. She was completely quiet, and then she had all kinds of jewelry and whatnot. So he started taking out the jewelry from her, and then started taking off, different pieces of cloth, and then she herself, in a very angry mood, because she could understand that he didn't like it. He was not at all approving that they were in this way. Then, as she started to take off the different cloth, then the young son and daughter also likewise. And of course, Shivaji Maharaj was very impressed because he could understand that Tukaram is very much on the transcendental platform, not at all interested in material wealth. And so in this way it was, yeah, a great... So there's so many examples of such type of personalities who are, as mentioned here, are very less concerned, very less attracted, not at all attracted actually, to things of a temporary nature, but are fixed. Of course, he was very exemplary, Tukaram Maharaj, as totally absorbed and fixed in transcendental matters. We'll keep tomorrow's verse for tomorrow, because although it's a short purport, but we'll it's tomorrow will be hearing about a little bit the Milky Way, which is a very fascinating subject matter as well. So any questions on this?
Translation, we can see the
Translation of?
the transcendentalist. A transcendentalist.
Translation of which word?
The today.
No, which word? Any particular word or?
Yeah, the transcendentalist, the first line.
Okay, the first, yeah.
But the transcendentalist Prabhupada explained that the Jnani and Yogi also transcendentalist.
Yes.
So Bhakta also transcendentalist. There are three categories.
Yeah.
There are three categories.
Jnanis, yogis
And the Bhakta.
are transcendentalists, and the bhaktas, yeah.
But here later, by their devotional service, as you come in the next verse, by the strength of their devotional service.
Yes.
So, how the Jnani and the Yogi they consider as how they do the devotional service, because it is not considered as
How do Jnanis do their devotional service? They don't do devotional service.
But here mentioned the transcendentalist.
No, Prabhupada is making the statement, the text is explaining that the transcendentalists are less concerned with the spiritual body. But as you rightly point out, there are different types of transcendentalists, and Prabhupada acknowledges that in the purport as well, by referring to the topmost transcendentalist, which is Narada Muni, who is completely on the spiritual, transcendental, devotional platform. Then he also mentions about Durvasa Muni, who was also a transcendentalist, but he was in the category of mystic yogi, right? So different transcendentalists, the common denominator, the common feature of a transcendentalist is that he is less concerned about his material body. But there are differences in that, here this is being pointed out, Durvasa Muni, who was not the topmost transcendentalist, he could only travel in a limited manner, and therefore even such personality could reach part of spiritual space, as mentioned here. So depending on the level of development, which means that the level of consciousness, depending on how one's consciousness is developed, the topmost or perfectional level being that of bhaktas or devotees. So they're all transcendentalists, the common feature being that they are less concerned about the material body. Those who are Jnanis, they're more, they're less concerned about the gross body, but they are very much on the level of the subtle body. Like a Jnani, he will be especially developing knowledge. So that's on the level of the intelligence. Whereas a yogi who develops mystic powers, that's also within the subtle level of the mind. Mind is that reservoir of various mystic powers that are there. So the ideal or perfectional stage is given in the example of Narada Muni, who completely transcends the material sphere, and within his, in his transcendental body, can travel freely, unlimitedly, sometimes within the material world, sometimes within the spiritual world. Okay, we can close here for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanande.